r/AskReddit by Redmond Dtes. What is the disturbing backstory behind something that is widely considered wholesome? Shaman Kelly wrote the lyrics to Dancing in the Moonlight while recovering from a violent assault carried out on him and his girlfriend by a youth gang. He envisioned an alternative reality where people just dance and be happy all the time. It was his way of dealing with the trauma. Canonically, Chuck E. Cheese is an orphan who never knew when his birthday was, so he celebrates other people's birthdays to fill the terrible painful void of his abandonment. For a while, Neopets was owned and operated by Scientologists. They wanted to add religion to it while they had it. Candyland was invented during the polio epidemic by retired school teacher Alina Abbott, who herself was recovering from polio. She invented the game to keep children entertained during their hospital stays, who themselves were affected. Valentine's Day. Saint Valentine was killed for being the priest to marry people, so men could get out of war. For this he was beheaded. Dole, the company, overthrowing the Queen of Hawaii. I met a writer named Thomas Dish when I was in college. He wrote The Brave Little Toaster. He told us Disney hired him to write a movie about lions. He wanted to do King Lear with lions because the plot mirrored how lion prides operate. Old lazy but powerful male, dangerous daughters. But Disney said they wanted a young hero. So he changed it to Hamlet with lions. Uncle kills father, kid runs away, ghost of dad visits and calls for revenge, etc. but with a happy ending. Timon and Pumbaa are Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Wrote a treatment, turned it in. They said thanks but no thanks, and fired him. Movie comes out, they took his idea and didn't pay him. He said Disney was notorious for doing this to creators. I read years later that he took his own life. Never think of the Lion King without thinking about him. They made so much money off his idea and he got nothing. Voice actor for classic Disney Peter Pan died alone of a drug overdose in an abandoned warehouse after years of being unable to get work in Hollywood later in life. The song Save the Last Dance for Me by the Drifters was written by a man who was crippled by polio and in a wheelchair, watching his new wife dancing with other men at his wedding to her because he couldn't. In the animated film, All Dogs Go to Heaven, the little girl who plays Anne Mary was murdered by her father prior to the film being released. Burt Reynolds struggled hard to finish recording his scene, where Charlie says goodbye to the little girl one last time before going to heaven. It's a tear-inducing scene without knowing the backstory, but you can absolutely hear the pain in Burt Reynolds' voice. It's generally considered a very loving and touching moment, but knowing what happened makes it really hard to listen to that without getting emotional. Her father was a violent and abusive alcoholic who murdered both her and her mom and then committed suicide. She was 10 years old. Edit. Oh man, I just realized more people commented about this here. I also didn't realize she voiced Ducky from The Land Before Time too. Most fairy tales. Disney has scrubbed all the Grimm out of the Brothers Grimm. In Cinderella, the evil stepsisters cut off their toes and heels trying to make the slipper fit, and later have their eyes pecked out by doves. All of the original Brothers Grimm stories are really not for children lol. The Kids Book, Love You Forever, by Robert Munsch, As Long As I'm Living, My Baby You'll Be, was written in the wake of the stillbirth of the author and his wife's 2 babies. Bananas. You thought cocaine was a blood-soaked cartel and war-driven commodity? The banana trade makes cocaine look like a farmer's market. Also chocolate, coffee, tea, spices, and most tropical fruits. And meat, and seafood. Basically everything we eat, wear and use. When I was 10 or so, my sisters and I were doing a common counting rhyme to pick something, maybe who went first in a game. Eeny meeny miny moe, catch a tiger by the toe, if he hollers let him go, eeny meeny miny moe. My dad walked by and quietly commented when I was your age that word wasn't tiger, but we didn't know better back then. The Wizard of Oz could have its own behind the scenes movie with the amount of shit that went down. Went to a community event last night and 32 years later, Macarena still fills the dance floor. A bunch of teens learned the dance for the very first time. The lyrics are, of course, in Spanish. And about the titular Macarena having a threesome with her boyfriend's friends while he's swearing his military oath. Also interesting is that the band played traditional music primarily, and this was their first pop release in their 50s. They went back to traditional music after. The Volkswagen Beetle was a beloved car with a quirky design. It was also commissioned by order of Adolf Hitler, designed by Ferdinand Porsche as an affordable practical vehicle for the German public. Its original name was the KDF Wagen, which was an abbreviation of the Hitler Youth motto Kraft durch Freude, strength through joy. The little girl who played Matilda in the movie Matilda, mom died before the movie was released, of cancer. I believe the director showed her a rough cut before she passed, but geez, that made me sad to learn as an adult. Edit. Thank you everyone who reminded me the director was Danny DeVito. Pugs and other similar dog breeds suffer all their lives because of selective breeding, leading to the deformation of their faces, legs, bodies, and skin, plus cardiac and respiratory issues. I really hope they get extinct someday. I can't bear watching such an aberration of nature due to human vanity. No thing must suffer their entire life, only to look cute or adorable or luxury. Reza Siani, the rubbery anatomical model we learned CPR on. The face is modeled after the death mask of an unidentified and unclaimed woman who drowned in the Seine River in the late 1800s. Toymaker Osmond Deslaudel chose to use the woman's face on the mannequin, as he thought male trainees might be reluctant to kiss a man's face. The face was sculpted by the Norwegian-Danish sculptor Rema Mathisen. Henry Ford promoted square dancing in public schools, starting in the 1920s. Sound wholesome? He did it because he hated Jews and thought they invented jazz. He wanted to get America back to traditional white and Christian music and dancing. Hitler claimed Henry Ford as an inspiration. That's how racist he was. Nintendo started as a card company in the late 1800s. It probably would have gone defunct were it not for the Yakuza. The reason cats and dogs like squeaky toys is not because the noise is funny, it's because the sound is similar to the death screams of their prey. And when they swing the toys back and forth, it's their natural way of breaking the backs of their prey. I read somewhere that when you and your dog play tug of war, your dog isn't viewing it as a him versus you. He's viewing it as the two of you working together to kill the prey. Everyone thinks The Ugly Duckling is a story about how it's okay to be ugly. But it's actually a story about how you can be pretty too one day. There was a ridiculous reality show a few years back called The Swan. Women got tons of surgeries and cosmetic procedures. Didn't even look like the same people at the end. It was super creepy. Alfred Nobel, the creator of the Nobel Prize, was the inventor of dynamite and amassed his wealth by developing, manufacturing, and selling explosives, the weapons of mass destruction of his day. A French newspaper mistakenly published an obituary for his death when another arms manufacturer died, calling him the Merchant of Death. Seeing what his legacy was and how he and his family name were going to be remembered, he changed his will to found the Nobel Prize. Lewis Carroll, the author of Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, left behind a disturbing photographic collection of naked children. Edit. He did the photography himself. For more on this issue, see the Lewis Carroll problem in The Artifice. The song My Sharona by The Knack was about the lead singer perving over a teenage girl. It's still a very catchy song on the surface, but it's still about wanting an underage girl. She was real, and Sharona was her actual name. She was 17, he was 25, and he eventually got her to become his girlfriend. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more. Have a nice evening. Tell your friends about me.